Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Kurious Cast. My name is Charles. I'm your host and co-owner of Kurious Group. Today we have with us the North Shore's most loved cafe owner, Pat. And we're here to hear a little bit about his story and his beginnings and kind of how he got to where he did with this successful cafe, Stanley Street.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here. I've seen a couple of your podcasts now, so they're looking really good. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
Give you a bit of info on how we started.
So yeah, probably the best thing is if you could just tell everyone, including me, give us a bit more of an understanding of like who you are and kind of how you ended up where you did.
Yeah. So, long story short, I've done a few different things in my life, but my love has always been in hospitality. I've tried different avenues early on when I was a young lad, and it's always driven me back to the hospo scene. So as far as how we started here, I used to work for All Press Espresso, which is the coffee we use, and I ran their cafe there at Zaatar for about a year, and really just kind of learnt all the things I needed to just finesse my expertise in the hospitality industry, especially cafes, and then decided to bring it to St Ives.
And before it was hospitality, what was it that you did that was like, or what did you do before that where you thought to yourself, this is not what I really want to do, and hospitality is what I want to do, because it really is a hard industry, as you know, and as many other people know, especially if they're in this industry. Like, it does require a lot of your time and your blood and your sweat and your tears. So like, what was that switch, or that part, that maybe that thing or that job that you had that made you decide, hey, this is not what I want to do, and that's where I want to be?
Yeah, right. So, well, when I came out of school, I actually finished in year 11. Didn't finish school. I decided to go work for my dad, who was in hospo. So I knew I had that backup when I would try other things. But the industry that really made me realize that I needed to do something a bit more suited to me was when I went into the sales industry, whether it was real estate or I did a bit of stockbroking at the time. And although I did really well out of it, and I was kicking goals and doing everything correct, and I could have easily made a career out of it, I saw how hard it was to sell to people. And I didn't love that. I didn't love selling to people. I wanted people to come in and buy from me because they wanted to be there. They wanted to buy from us. So I knew that in hospitality, obviously, then the way you get business is people coming in because they want to be in your shop. So that was something that definitely drove me back to the hospo scene. And also just being like a person that can help people out in their day-to-day. People come to me with problems all the time behind the coffee machine, whether it's...
You're like the barista therapist.
Yeah, they tell me anything, whether it's relationship problems or the dishwasher's not working or how to make a good coffee like you at home, things like that. So I'm happy to help out I'm happy to be able to help people in this industry too.
And, was it something that you, even when you were in school and you were kind of thinking what you wanted to do, was it something that even then, maybe just working with your dad, was your dad probably big inspiration to it?
Yeah, for sure. My dad was pretty much the reason I got into hospo. I loved how he was with people, as my dad's specialty was customer service, and just being able to always smile for people. Doesn't matter how difficult the customer was, always being able to deliver something for them and making them come back and return with a smile, which would obviously increase business. They'd bring people, and then word of mouth would happen.
And then I know this wasn't your first venture into hospitality or into owning a cafe. So where did that all start?
Right. So it really started when my dad had the shop in Wahroonga. So we've always had cafes in the North Shore. One was in Wahroonga, and then obviously we've moved to St Ives. So the North Shore we know it. We've got a great name here. So that's where it really started. Just working out of there, building up some customer base from there, and then moving into it. We found this spot in St Ives. It was a risky spot due to the location of it.
It is, for people who haven't been here, it is a really kind of hidden gem. Unless you get unless someone tells you that it's here, or you might be driving down Stanley Street, you see the graffiti on the wall, you wouldn't really know what's back here unless you live here.
So that took a lot. Like, we're behind a building. We're in the lane in a car park. So the view is horrible. It's a car park. So as far as getting a draw card into it being a pretty cafe, we knew we needed to work on the interior of this place. And that's been an ongoing process. It's something that I pride myself on. We always kind of keep it fresh and updated often. And the biggest issue was trying to get people here and getting our name out there with such a hidden location. So word of mouth was really how we did it. It was all about word of mouth. We started slow, but we knew our product was good. So once those people came and tried the coffee and then tried the food, it was just like wildfire. It took off really quick.
And what was that one thing that happened? And generally most people in business will, tell you that there was this one pivotal moment in their business's life where they kind of just woke up and thought, fuck, this thing's got legs and it could work. And coming from a place where your past cafe was, or your father's past cafe was, which was, kind of in the thank you very much.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
So, being where the other cafe was, which you've told me about previously, which was in the middle of Wahroonga, right in the middle of the village centre, lots of foot traffic, and then taking this massive risk to come to a very secluded location.
Yeah.
Fairly enough, there's not a lot of, even till now, there's not a lot of competition around here, which kind of works in your favour.
Right.
But, you do have a very good product and very good service. But what was the thing that said, where was that moment where you said, this has got legs and it can work?
Yeah, well, I've got to give a shout out to my brother-in-law here for this one. So my brother-in-law, Anthony, I'll go back a few steps. I was 21 at the time and I needed to do something without taking too much of a risk because I just didn't want to be in a position where I had if the cafe didn't take off, I'd be stuck with the lease. All this stress at that age, I didn't know what I was going to be able to do. I didn't want it to stuff my future up as far as purchasing a house or anything like that. So my brother-in-law, we sat down and my brother-in-law, Anthony, actually is the one who took the lease here initially and said, I believe in you. If it doesn't work, it'll fall on me, but I know it's going to work. So I actually hadn't seen the shop.
That's an amazing gesture for him.
It was amazing. So I actually hadn't seen the shop in the start. It was desperate times for my parents, to be honest with you. It was desperate times. We needed to create some income. And my dad came and looked at it. And the fact that it had a shell was all he needed to see. And he said, Anthony signed the lease. You got to go look at this shop. I want you to run it with me. And I went in and I came here and I said, you guys are batshit crazy. I can't believe what you've done. There's no way I would sign in the lease here. I brought my wife now, Renee, through at the time. We stood here, we looked around and I go, I'm not sure how I'm going to get this to work, but let's just see how we can do it. So I actually kept my job at All Press for a week and a half to 2 weeks whilst this was being set up. I worked a couple of weekdays and it was pretty slow, but there was still foot traffic for the spot that I was in. We still had customers coming in. So I worked it during the week here and I did the first weekend at All Press. I was just trying to see how I could kind of juggle the two to still obviously make an income and then try to build a business up on the side. The day of reckoning was the first Saturday that we did here, and it was chaos. So I wasn't here, and the week ran really smoothly with me being here because I knew how to get things going and put things in place. I didn't have the stress. I wasn't out of the industry. My parents were out of the industry for a few years at the time, so I kind of knew how to get the flow going. And the first Saturday I had off, I didn't think it was going to be busy, and I left mum and dad here. And they got absolutely swamped. There were dockets everywhere. They lost control because there was nothing in place to be that busy. It ended up being my family being called in to do the dishes that day. That's how busy it was. And it was just chaos. But as stressful as it was, because I was away from the shop and I couldn't help out, I knew I had my family to come that had a bit of experience in the industry that came and at least got them through the morning. The amount of bad reviews they got that day was ridiculous. But what I did notice was that's our first Saturday. If we can turn over that much money with our first week on one Saturday, imagine if we had something good here. Like, we had something good, but imagine we did the right thing by people.
Yep.
How busy we can get. And then that's when the day I threw the towel in at All Press was the day that Saturday happened. I was here on Sunday and never looked back. And we just built it. We just built it and built it. First year it just skyrocketed. It was amazing.
And talk about that build itself. Like, how what was the process, the thought process, and obviously the actions you took to get you to this point of success? Like, you know, obviously you knew it had legs at that point.
Yeah.
You knew that, you know, the area needed something.
Yeah.
So how did you build on that? Because it's all good to have one busy Saturday, as you know.
Yeah.
But you need to be busy every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the area, St Ives is a beautiful area, and there's a lot of great businesses here. But what they didn't have was a modern, young, edgy type cafe with a bit of a Middle Eastern approach is what we offered. So a lot of the cafes here at that time were a bit dated, just a generic cafe. So I knew that there was a market for something new in the area. Now, this is the time when Instagram was just starting off, because we've been here 11 years now, to become a real foodies thing where you're posting your food, and it was all about that. So that we kind of caught wind of that in the first year. So I knew that the fit out needed to become Instagrammable, and I knew the food needed to be Instagrammable, but I didn't need it to be too pretty because I knew that the product that we were giving was good enough. So as long as the plate looked great without flowers or colors and everything that goes on these days.
But it's, yeah, like I've been in here before. I know like the food is just honest. Like it's very well presented. The service is always good.
Yeah.
But you know, when the food comes out,
Yeah.
it looks amazing, but it tastes just as good as it looks.
Yeah. So it's a hearty food. You come here, you get a meal, and you won't walk out feeling like you still need to eat. You'll feel like I've eaten a good meal, and you've got value for money as
I
well.
think that's just the Middle East. We want to feed everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And that's my dad coming out. Like, he'll put more on the plate, whereas a lot of hospo owners would not do that. And that's the specialty of my dad. He would take out of his pocket to make sure that customer is happy.
But it goes tenfold for goodwill. Like, I've been to a million cafes where you go and you order all this food and you go in there really hungry.
Yeah.
And then the food comes out and it's like this massive plate and it's beautifully presented and there's like this much food on the plate and you're like, well, where's the rest of it?
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't get that here.
You're right. So that's something that we pride ourselves on big time. So yeah, we're really well known for our food and our coffee. So that's been our biggest success here. And then we've obviously incorporated our customer service through that. You know, you come here, like everyone that comes in here is pretty much family. And I'm not just saying that as a hospo owner, a cafe owner. We know everyone by their first name. We know their coffees before they come in. And people come to us with private problems that they wouldn't tell anyone else. That's how comfortable they feel here. So that's how we want to feel in a neighborhood cafe. We want people to come here, get away from whatever's going on at home or in their life. They can come here, they can de-stress, tell us anything, have a laugh, and go on with their day.
Well, like, you know, I know this area very well, and I also know what the type of people are in this area.
Yeah.
And it does have that very village community feeling to it. So, you know, coming in here and what you're saying, I can contest. Like, you know, I can second that. What I'm trying to say is, like, you come in here and people do feel very comfortable, including myself.
Yeah.
And like, you really do embody that village feel. You come in, you know, and being in that hospitality industry, it's not just making people feel comfortable. Everyone comes in, you know their name, you know their story, like as far as the regulars.
Yeah.
And if they're not a regular and they come in, you make sure you know who their name is. And I've seen you do it. So, you know, that's a testament to it.
I mean, that's the most important thing in hospo. And a lot of successful hospo owners would know that it's all about customer service. The food and coffee or food and alcohol, whatever you're doing, is definitely very important. But the first thing you need to get right is the customer service. And at least you've ticked that box. So as long as people are smiling part of the time they're here, that's all you need.
And then back to what we were talking about before is about being hidden.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the early days of Instagram.
Yeah.
What was the role that marketing had in helping you grow this business? And it may not necessarily have been digital.
Yeah.
It may have been word of mouth marketing. It might have been letterbox drops.
Yeah.
More traditional styles of marketing. But what were the means of marketing that worked and what didn't work? Because also everyone tries, especially with marketing, you know, it's always, it's test and release. So it's like, you'll try things. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. So, you know, what were the things that didn't work and then what did work for you?
Yeah. So I'm sure marketing obviously continues to change and we kind of change with that. Early on, it was all word of mouth. Instagram wasn't the biggest thing at the time. You had to have a presence, but it wasn't why everyone came out. We still had that older generation that were new to Instagram using it at the time. Now it's very young. So if you're starting up a business now, you don't have an Instagram account, page, but more like look, I'm just stuffed that up anyway. If you don't have a presence on Instagram, it'll be harder to make it. So to start off, first few years was word of mouth, and then it just really built on that. Now the big thing for me was, I didn't realize, was we put this window in here which opened it up a bit more. It was more about visibility for us, but you could call this marketing. The Stanley Street on the back wall there, the graffiti, and the one down the side lane,
which used to be a lot bigger.
Yeah. That brought heaps of people through because it just made it grungier, and people it was interesting. It was like, what is that? Where are these arrows leading me to? And the moment I did that, it was the most expensive marketing, advertising, whatever you want to call it, I've done. But it was the best decision I've made to do that. And then obviously with letterbox drops, COVID changed a lot of that for us. So we had to go into takeaway mode during that time, and we decided to do letterbox drops to offer like a takeaway food menu, and that worked really well. I had my workers here going around doing letterbox drops. People were fully supportive at that time. That got us through that era.
And it was a very hard time for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it was very hard. We're trying to do everything packaged. It was impossible, but we just made it work, and we got through, and we got out of it really well.
But also, I think a big part of that is you having that contact with the community and being part of that village, mentality kind of that goes on in this area. And, they obviously want to support you during those times as well.
Yeah. And this area was amazing for that. We often use the St Ives community page for marketing. So the Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff has helped us. Now these days, we tend to lean towards more of the Instagram marketing, obviously, stories and posts. Apart from that, it's still word of mouth and just trying to get return customers.
Was there something in particular that you did that you really thought was going to work, and then you were just like, oh, fuck, that was a waste of time?
I'd love to say there was.
Yeah.
But this is one of these special places where it seems when I put enough thought into it, what I do works without sounding like,
oh, sometimes it just works.
I kind of get a feel of what works in hospo. Now, in saying that, I've had dishes that are like, why did I put that dish on the menu? Didn't really take off. But you've seen it. I've done nights, done pop-up evenings here, which has been
very successful.
Yeah, been amazing. We do it for 4 weeks, and we're doing over 500 or 600 covers across those weeks. That's unbelievable for a cafe that doesn't do dinner trade.
Yeah, especially you haven't got that many seats in here.
So we do jam it to capacity, and we just make it work, whether that's pushing tables, squeezing people up on tables sometimes, but it all adds to the vibe. So as far as doing things that haven't worked, I wouldn't say there's a whole lot, apart from some menu items that maybe just didn't take off, but this shop has been really great and having new things work really well. And that's due to the community being really, really supportive of it.
And as far as you come in here, like you said, you've really tried to embody a particular vibe and a feel when the clients walk in here. Yeah. What's been your inspiration for that? Was there somewhere you went, or something you saw, or was it something you've just always dreamt of doing? Or was it just a bit of an evolution? How did you get to what it is now?
Yeah. Well, as far as the nitrate, the backing and the inspiration for that was a place in Melbourne, which I'm sure you know about. It's called Bar Bambi. And I've always wanted to do a restaurant eventually, a restaurant bar / Goodfellas scenario, 1960s style, dinner and a show thing. And they have just pretty much embodied what I wanted to do. So I went there and I was like, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted to do. So one day, watch this space, I probably would like to do something like that. A lot of my ideas, I've got a love for the American culture. So a lot of their food ideas, especially their old school stuff, I like to bring forth from here. And then obviously our menu is full on it is a strongly Middle Eastern menu. So a lot of that Beirut 1980s, 1970s style food is definitely something that we kind of play on here. Apart from that, man, it was just kind of like a lot of my passion has just come into this place.
And what were, were there any, like, what challenges did you along the way, just business challenges, like marketing aside?
Yeah. I mean, I'd never had my own business. So obviously learning the ropes along the way as far as everything that comes with the business.
And I'm sure this would have been a big learning experience.
Yeah, it was, man. It was a massive learning experience. But in the long run, it's given me a lot of confidence to be able to go, I can do that, I can do that. So I think at 21, taking on a new business was obviously a massive risk. And I learnt so much out of that, and it doesn't scare me to do things now. I'll just take that risk.
What were some of those things that scared you? There might have even been things like, you thought may have been very daunting to do, right? Obviously, opening a business is a very daunting thing, right? Especially for someone at the age of 22 with little to no business experience, except for maybe seeing how your father ran and operated a cafe before, and your very limited experience maybe working with other people. What were those things that what were those things that you had to overcome along the way, or at least those fears?
Yeah, I mean, fears were more like taking loans for the business to grow. That would be a definite big one, and just not falling into debt, which can happen really easy, especially in the hospital industry. You might have a dishwasher that breaks, and that's $8,000. You have to have that money ready to go. If you don't have that, you're borrowing, and then you have a quiet 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks due to rain or whatever's happened, COVID, you're stuck with, you've got to pay this bill. So just understanding the cash flow of hospitality and how easy your cash can just go bang in this industry, because so much can go wrong.
We've seen, you see it especially during COVID.
Yeah.
You've seen so many great hospitality venues just disappear.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's going to keep happening. But the biggest one in this industry is staff. And I'm blessed here to have my family on the front. I can always call on, whether it's a sister-in-law, mum, dad, wife, kids eventually, not yet too young. But my biggest stress is my kitchen.
Yeah.
Now, the kitchen is the brain. So especially on a busy day like a Saturday or Sunday where it's non-stop, if you have a chef ring up sick, you're fucked. Like, you're in trouble. So that was my biggest fears early on, not being able to free myself up. And that's been my biggest issue. Not so much these days, but early on, not being able to free myself up from behind the coffee machine to be able to float in case someone's sick at the back, in case someone's sick at the front. So that was my biggest issue that I struggled with early on. And obviously, if you're struggling with that issue, it's hard to expand as well. So my learning curve now is just to get that sorted, get that right, try and take me out of the picture here so I can continue to grow. And that's something that we've worked on. We've done really well. We've got extra staff on now for days where someone's sick or someone's just left. Hospitality industry is full of characters, and that can happen. They can call you the night before, not even call you on a Saturday morning, just not turn up. So things like that can happen, and that they're a real problem for hospital owners. I'm sure many people watching this could understand that.
I know it's definitely a big issue in hospo, but I think that's just an issue regardless of any business or any industry. Staffing is a really big thing. You want to make sure that you've got a reliable team that is not just, and I always say this, and my staff are probably sick of hearing me say it. It's about being, have everyone on board with the mission.
Yeah.
So in your case, your mission is to serve the community.
Yeah.
To be that safe place that they can come, have a good meal, have a great coffee, and just kind of switch off from their day.
Yeah.
So it's not just about you understanding what the mission is, it's about your staff understanding that and being able to implement that.
Yeah.
Just the same way you do when you're not here.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think the only difference with hospo and other industries is someone orders scrambled eggs and bacon. They expect that in 10 to 15 minutes maximum. That's even a long time. So if you don't have anyone providing that product then and there, there's no day or two wait. Like, it needs to be done that moment. So if you're not providing for that person, that you've lost that customer. So it can be really cutthroat like that too. So that's where staff is so important in this industry.
Definitely. And one thing I actually wanted to ask you is, because you always hear different cafe owners or different hospitality owners, say one or the other. And that is, I know you said they're both really important, but is the coffee more important or is the food more important? Like, can you get away with okay food and a really good coffee, or is the other, or does they both have to be?
I think it depends what you want to be. So this is it. That's really interesting. That's a good question because this place is really well known for the coffee, and really well known for the food. So at the start, when we first began, and this is how we got our name out there, the food was good. The coffee was what I really focused on. And what you'll find in hospital is people will try the coffee and then they'll try the food. So they might take 2 weeks of trying your coffee and then they try a light meal to start off just to see if they like it, just to get the trust up to, you're going to feed me, I want to make sure your food's good. And it happens all the time. You'll see someone start off with like raisin toast or banana bread or a chicken sandwich, and all of a sudden they're bringing their family in for full meals. So usually it starts with the coffee and then ends with the food. That's simply put.
Yeah. So the coffee definitely is more important, at least to get them in the door.
To get them in the door, because people will originally try the coffee first.
And as far as getting a good barista, how hard is that?
It's impossible. It's impossible. I'm blessed. I've got some really good baristas.
Yeah.
But the problem again is reliability, and my guys are usually really reliable. But as far as getting out quality and speed all the time, it can be quite hard. So you'll definitely hold on to those that can get coffees out in time, because that's really what it's about: getting the coffee out, getting people moving, continuing the process.
And what are some of the benefits of your clientele and growing the business by word of mouth? Like, being that, like, okay, you've got a great coffee.
Yeah.
The second they bump into someone they know, is it like instant that they're like, oh, I had a great coffee there, you should go and try it?
I think because where we're hidden, it becomes a cool and quirky talking point over dinner. I went to this cafe, they were packed out, it's in a lane, can't see, it's got no street presence. So people come in here happy and excited to be here. So they're expecting good food and good coffee, which is what I want. But that also adds to the pressure that providing that product consistently. Correct. So I know our product is good. That's why we don't change. I try and keep the staff the same as much as I can. Obviously, people move on here and there, but it's all about, this industry is all about consistency. And usually when you step away, you'll lose that consistency. So that's the juggle. That's the thing that we now focus on, is how do we keep the consistency, not being there as much and leaving staff in charge, but making sure customers are leaving happy.
So Pat, talk to me about the current landscape of the hospo industry, like restaurants in Sydney, and kind of what's changed over the last few years, especially like we spoke about before. There's a big shake up in the way things operate. We couldn't operate at full capacity for a long time. A lot of people closed down, a lot of new places have opened. What have you seen change, and where do you see it going?
I actually think hospo could be in a bit of trouble. That's my honest response.
Yeah.
I think food costs are really high now, and I don't think customers are ready to pay. I don't think customers are ready to be passed on that fee from us. It can really upset customers when you raise something on them that they're used to paying. And, avocados, a tray of avocados can be $30 or $40, and in the same week be $70. So we can't change our menu that often. So with these raising costs, it's going to continue to be a problem. So I think a lot of hospo industry, a lot of people in hospitality will struggle. I think small business, where it's family operated, will do really well, because you can cut back on staff. That would be the main way to save your money now. If you want to go into hospo, you're going to work hard, especially if you want to make money. If you just want to turning over and whatever and pull a bit of a wage out of it, different story. But if you want to make money in hospo these days, be prepared to work hard and work a lot. I think family run cafes will survive. I think anyone running them, just opening up 1, 2 or 3, will find it really hard. And when you're raising prices on customers, they can get a bit antsy, they can get a bit upset, and they become more and more picky.
Yeah, well, I think they feel that the value proposition needs to be a lot higher than to pay it.
Yeah.
So it's not just no longer the food or the coffee, it's everything else that comes along with it.
Yeah, right.
So have you noticed any particular picky customers?
I wish you asked me earlier. I don't think this Scotch is going to be enough of this bottle to answer this question. But I remember the first time you came in here, and mate, you walked in, staunch looking, and with his wife and his kid, and we were busy on a Saturday. He goes, "Can you give me a table?" And I go, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Just give me a moment, sir. It's a full house." So I got you the table. This is just, I'm not shitting on you, but I just want you to understand how you have to deal with, and I didn't know you from Barra over the time. Now we've been out many times and we've got a great relationship, but you didn't order off the menu. There was no menu. I gave you a menu. There's no point looking at the menu for you because it was 6 poached eggs, salmon, Zaatar, Labneh, gluten-free toast.
Oh, you remembers?
Yeah, I remember, man. It's just, and I go give that doc. That doesn't actually go in our till, right? So I got to handwrite it when it's busy. Give it to the kitchen, and you're looking around. Where's my food, mate? Put the food in front of you within 10 minutes. So
you did.
As far as you being a difficult customer, not at all, man. I love having you here. I love having you here. But I think what you'll need to find in hospo is we need you to keep coming and spending money. You need to support, and don't be shy about spending money at these places. I know it's hard these days to do that with interest rates going up and everything like that.
It's very hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, just try and make it worthwhile for the owner, whether it's order a second coffee or have a banana bread with your coffee, or just try not to give the owner a hard time if you're finding that a price has gone up. But you can see rising prices all around you. So I think give the hospo guys a bit of a break. The margins are not that big. It's more about volume. If you can get the numbers up, then you'll start making a lot more money. But as far as margins in hospo, you're not going to make that creme de la creme here. You got to work hard. You got to serve a lot of people.
And is there any takeaways or advice you'd want to give to someone, whether it's hospitality or any other industry, thinking that 22-year-old self that wants to go and open a business or start a company or do something that's following their dream?
With hospo, don't do it, man. Nah, I'm just joking. I think I always give this advice to my nephews as well. They're young and coming up. I think follow what you have a passion for and you will make it work. I tried other industries following money and I made money and I wasn't happy. I think making money and then doing something you're passionate about is the main thing. Now, it might be really hard to find that passion. Sometimes you don't actually know where your passion is till you try things. So I suggest trying things. Don't be scared to fail. You will fail. You'll walk away from some. You'll say, "I wasted my time." I don't think you can actually waste your time. I think it's all learning. And eventually you'll start, if you've got the drive, you'll stumble across something that you go, "You know what? I'm actually pretty good at this. I like this. I like what I'm giving out. I like what I'm selling." And you'll reap the benefits from it. The money will come eventually. If you're passionate about it, it will work. I can 100% assure you of that.
I think that's a really good takeaway for our audience and for someone who is that 22-year-old self that wants to go and try something.
It was actually 21. 21. So get it right.
You said 20. You said
21.
Roll it back. But no, thank you very much for today and tell the audience a bit of your story, and hopefully someone takes something away from this, their 21-year-old self, and is able to go implement it and follow their dreams.
I hope they do. I think life's all about taking risks. I think you don't leave any stone unturned. It's something me and my family don't do. We always ask the question, and sometimes it might not work. Hospo has worked for us as a family. It might not work for the person that thinks that they want to do it. So I think if you've got a passion for it, go for it. It works, awesome. Doesn't work, move on to your next passion, and something will eventually come up for you, for sure.
Well, thanks again, Pat.
Thanks for having me, man. And we'll do Bar Bambi again soon.
Yeah.